Hello! Happy whatever date is that you're seeing this video. My name is Sam Crones. I'm a musician out of Southern California, and I play guitar and I sing in a sort of twinkly rock band called Stereosity. We recently got back from a 2-week tour in March, and we've got another one coming up in July, and I believe this video is gonna go up around the time when those dates are out, so maybe I can sneak a peek at those dates up on the screen somewhere there. But yeah, I was actually teaching one of my students the other day, and we were on the topic of vocals and lyrics and lyric writing, which is something that I feel like I haven't really touched on in a while or ever on this channel, so I figured I might go ahead and sit down and take the time today to talk a little bit about lyrics and how to write lyrics. I don't know, I just remember starting out trying to write my own songs, and I remember how difficult it was for me personally to write lyrics. I think I spent days looking up tutorials on YouTube, like how to write lyrics, how to make your lyrics sound good, stuff like that, and I just never came across something that worked for me, you know, because everybody does it so differently. A while back, I did take some vocal lessons from a teacher a few years ago, and she gave me some very, very helpful information on songwriting as a whole, and I believe there are a lot of things to learn about lyrics and writing lyrics that a lot of people don't know right off the bat. You know, like, you're not told that there are things that make lyrics more appealing versus things that don't, and it's just, you know, tips and tricks that I've picked up over the years that I would love to be able to share with you. So welcome to How to Write Lyrics, or welcome to me talking about lyrics for probably way longer than I should be. If you wanted to hear any of my personal work or anything that I've done, you can go ahead and check out my band Stereosity. All of the lyrics on every song are essentially written by me. So approaching this as if maybe you've never written lyrics before, I think a good way to think about it could be relating it to poetry. If you're a poet, I guess the good news for you is that maybe you like metaphors in writing. I know I do. The bad news for you is that I think writing lyrics, in my opinion, is far different than writing poetry. As a matter of fact, I don't even write poetry, but I guess I do because I write lyrics, but it's kind of the same, but it's really not the same. In poetry, maybe you're thinking about the words and the rhymes and how it all fits together in one big piece, but in lyricism, it's different because you're now starting to focus on not only the rhymes and the words, but now you're also trying to think of the rhythm and the melody on top of that and how that kind of all fits into one big piece of artwork. And like I said before, I've heard a lot of people talk about a lot of different ways of writing lyrics. So I'd say for the first part of things, it really is about just you experimenting with how you write lyrics and trying to like lock in on that. But I'm gonna go through my process today and kind of talk about how I would do it if I was handed a song or if I started writing something and I had no idea where to start. I think my first tip, and probably my biggest tip that I've picked up over the years of writing, is write your lyrics after the instrumental is done. Or, if it's not done, have an idea of what the instrumental is or is doing before you go and write the lyrics. And I know some people actually do this differently. I think some friends of mine will have bits and pieces of words that they like and, you know, poetry that they like that they want to put into a song that ends up making it into a song eventually, because you can morph things and tweak them so it fits into the rhythm and the melody that you're looking for. But this is just the way that I've done it the entire time. It's very, I don't know, I find it to be a lot easier than doing it the other way around. Now, I guess this is not entirely necessary, maybe, but it does help me visualize the entire song better and visualize how every individual verse or chorus may feel, because I have a bigger picture of how the entire song will flow. Any of the songs on the album that we just put out, I mean, maybe there were 2 songs where lyrics kind of came with the instrumental, but for the most part, my band and I finished the instrumental version of the entire album before I really started putting heavy lyrics to it. I had to sit with these pieces of music for quite a while and just kind of write in, you know, wherever I was feeling like words would flow or fit better, and that's what it turned out to be, which is kind of cool because I really like how it turned out. Yeah, I feel like the only time I'd suggest differently is if maybe you were writing, you know, vocals and an instrumental at the same time. Maybe you had them in the same room, or you were doing a jam session and you just had a melody that just kind of started flowing, and, you know, obviously land on that. If inspiration hits in the moment, then definitely do that. But if there's ever a point in time where you're like, I really don't know what to do for lyrics here, you know, sometimes it's easier to record what it is that you're playing or have played, so you don't have to actively think about like, oh, I'm playing this piano part, or oh, I'm playing this guitar part and I can't sing on top of it, so how am I going to come up with a melody? You know, maybe record the idea first, and then you can go on top of that and just kind of like record yourself numerous times doing this like improv sort of thing, which is actually my next tip that I'm going to get into right now, which is improvise as much as you can. And I tell this to all my students in music, period, but I truly believe that improvisation is the best, most efficient, and probably easiest way to come up with a part for a piece of music that you're writing. And the reason for that, I think, is because it has a lot to do with your subconscious brain more than your conscious brain, because, you know, who wants to consciously write music, am I right? No, but like in all seriousness, your subconscious brain picks up on a lot of things that your favorite artists do in music that you like, probably more often than you realize. Say you're listening to your favorite artist and you're hearing the words that they use and the phrases that they repeat numerous times throughout this album, and you're not consciously aware of the words that they're saying, but the same way that you'd memorize those words, now they're in your subconscious, and every time that you go to improvise, you're pulling from that subconscious, maybe because you're not so ready consciously to throw words at this, right? So going back to that recording thing, if you were to record your piece of music or like a part of it and have it like laid down, you can kind of go over it, mumble to yourself until you get this like improv sort of thing flowing, come up with these words. Maybe your brain is just gonna start spitballing something. You're gonna be like, that's cool. You know, maybe it's just one word, right? And we'll get to that later on in the video, because that's another whole topic that I wanted to talk about. Anyways, I think a lot of this has to do with your subconscious, because a lot of the time, if you're not actively thinking hard about what comes next, your brain has to fill in the blanks. And what does your brain fill in the blanks with? What have you heard? What music do you really like? Because that is the music that your brain is going to start reaching for when it comes to filling in those blanks. It's going to start filling it in with a bunch of information that you've heard, words that you're familiar with, stuff that you've heard thousands of times that you really, really enjoy. And I guess that's the glory of improv. I think this is also why mistakes can sometimes be so inspiring. You know, that's what people call happy accidents in writing music. When you make a mistake and all of a sudden it inspires a whole nother part, you know, because maybe you played the wrong thing, but you were like, oh, that major chord was actually really cool in that spot. Same sort of thing. The art of improv, your brain filling in blanks or making mistakes in ways that maybe you're not so used to. It's new, it feels fresh, and so you want to hold on to that, because if it's new and fresh to you, you might like it more too. This also means, though, that if you spend maybe an hour listening to just your favorite artist, somebody who you really look up to and you really want to write like, if you spend an hour listening to their music and their lyrics before a writing session, you might find that when you get to that writing session, you're going to start sounding a lot more like them naturally, because it's the freshest piece of information that your subconscious mind has taken in. So when you're spitballing ideas, you might spitball something that sounds familiar to what you just heard because it's still fresh in your mind, which is actually funny, because that is something that I've done before, where I'll have been listening to an artist for a really long time, and I'll kind of be on like a day where I'm feeling kind of down about my writing, and I'll do it just for inspiration, you know, and then I'll come back to the same song that I was so stuck with, and then all of a sudden something will flow out of me just because like I felt so inspired by what I just heard, you know, and then maybe you end up using one of the words that they use that you really like. I don't know, keep it fresh, keep it moving, keep it improv. Somebody quote me on that. Now, my third tip is actually one of the big ones that my old vocal teacher gave me a long time ago, and I think it is super, super helpful. I give this one to all of my vocal students. The third tip is to write visually. Now, what does that mean? It's a simple idea. Technically means anything that you can say to somebody, they should be able to visualize it back. Think about how when somebody is writing a book for you, or maybe you're reading this book, okay? What are the words that they use in the book to give you a visual picture of what's happening? Somebody who is so in love with another person is not just gonna be like, I loved them so much. It's gonna be like, oh, their gorgeous blue eyes, the sparkle in their eyes, the wind in their hair. You know, it's like, it's descriptive words and phrases that kind of paint a picture for your audience before they even realize it's happened. It also helps get a listener more attached to something emotionally because they can feel and see what's happening in their head. It's the emotions that maybe you felt that you're trying to portray that you maybe didn't know how to portray. You're giving the audience member your emotions, your feelings. You're making them feel something because that's how you felt. That's what you were looking at when you felt that thing. Not every word has to be visual, but if you can make a phrase sound visual, then it helps those filler words make more sense in the long run too. Okay. Tip number 4, repetition is key. Now, another thing that I'll talk about in all of music, period, same thing goes for guitar, like production, vocals. In any case, repeating something makes it feel more intentional. Same idea as make a mistake once, it's gonna feel like a mistake. But if you make the same mistake again, it's gonna start boding confidence. People are gonna see that as intentional. Oh, that person meant to play that same dead note twice. It's like, okay, maybe it serves a purpose, right? Maybe not, but like, it's a thing that every musician is taught to hide mistakes. So in a string of lyrics, I'll typically repeat a melody once or twice before switching the phrasing. It's also what makes something feel catchy or catchier than just spitballing a bunch of words in random melodies. And I do the same thing in guitar in the riffs that I write. It's really interesting because I can show you probably any of my popular riffs, and every single one, it always follows the same sort of repetition. It's play a phrase, play it again, play it a third time, and then resolve it. That's typically the chain of events that makes something like catchy in my brain. And so you can hear this in the riffs that I've written, but you can also hear this in a lot of music, period, like especially in the chorus of a song when somebody's really trying to like get a hook to sink into your head. What they'll do is they'll take a melody, they'll repeat the melody once or twice, and then at the very end of the chorus, they're gonna hit this resolve that allows it to turn around back to that first melody again. If I can find an example for this, I will play it right now. Yeah, so you can do this with melody, you can do this with rhythm, you can experiment with rhythm that way. Okay, now tip number 5, arguably one of the more important ones in my opinion, is to find unique words. I think almost all of my writing processes start with unique words or a unique word or phrase that will kind of carry the rest of the line. This means that I won't really get attached to something I've written until there's like a word or a phrase that really sticks out in some way. It could be something that just is super visual. Once again, something that makes you feel something, makes you think something. Something like crackling, chewing, tasting. That's another one. Crashing. Or more descriptive words like flowing, rushing, turning. Notice how these are all descriptors. This is a pretty big point of it, I think, because these descriptors can help you get your point across in a way that makes more sense. This is how you kind of use that visual information and write with it. Sometimes I'll just be kind of spitballing over something and I'll accidentally say a word and I'll listen to that accidental word and I'll be like, ooh, that sounds really cool. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna turn around and I'm gonna write around that word. You know, so sometimes you can fully flesh out an idea just based off of one word. And actually that's another point that I wanted to mention. Tip 6 for me, and I think the last like general tip, would be to mumble before you put words in. Now, again, you're like, what in the world are you talking about? Well, okay, so going back to that tip that I had said earlier, where if you record your ideas before you sing over them, you know, if you, maybe you just have a guitar part, you want to put lyrics over it, okay? Or you have a piano part, you want to put lyrics over it. If you record that, so you're not actively thinking about that like part that you're playing, you can go back and you can actually sing over this as many times as you want, right? Maybe that's too much freedom because then you're like trying to think of too much. It's like freestyling. It's like, why are you trying to put a rhythm down, a melody down, and words down at the same time? It's like, you can't do that. It's too much for your brain. So let's simplify it. And the way that you simplify it, in my experience, is by mumbling. And I do this all of the time. It actually sounds really funny out of context. But what I'll do typically is I'll record this guitar part. I'll be like, okay, I want to sing over this. So I'll just put it on loop. like cycle it. And I will go through and I will start humming a melody over the top of it. Eventually, a few million times through, I will notice that I'm repeating certain mumbles in certain ways. And what you do by mumbling is you're removing the aspect of actually talking or, you know, throwing lyrics over the top of it. So you're removing kind of the thought process, and you're just doing what your instincts feel would fit best over top of this piece of music, right? So same thing as before, you know, something that you are pulling from your subconscious. It's improv. And so if you're just kind of mumbling this phrase out, maybe 5,000 times later, I've repeated this phrase in this spot 6 times. I'm just going to solidify that, okay? Now you can listen back to your mumble in that spot that you really liked what you had there. You can listen back to your mumble and you can kind of pick out enunciation or maybe vowels that you're hearing. Maybe it's like, that you're mumbling. You can kind of pick out from that, okay, it sounds like if I put the word another in this phrase, it'll do for me what I've been aiming for it to do this entire time, because I keep mumbling that sort of enunciation. But hey, once you mumble out an entire phrase and you've got it recorded, you know, you can just start like piecing in different words here and there. That's really how I start building certain phrases and fleshing them out into wholes. Now I guess we're on to the extra tip section. This is just like small details to think about if you're writing lyrics the way that I just explained. Biggest one for me is do not force it. And this goes for music, period. Whatever you do not force your ideas. You know, it's okay to have to sit on a phrase that you don't quite like yet for months. It's totally normal. I feel like every musician does this, where especially if you're in the middle of a writer's block, you know, it's totally normal to have an idea, start doing it, be like, I really cannot figure out the last word of this and it's killing me. And then put it aside, come back to it the next day, you know, on a fresh set of ears, still hate it. Come back to it the next day on a fresh set of ears, still hate it. Just put it away for a month. You never know. Maybe you've listened to a new artist in that period of time. Maybe you're in a different mental headspace. All of this stuff like matters when you're thinking about writing and being creative, because all of that mental headspace goes directly into your art. So yeah, just another thing to think about. Another reason you don't want to is because if you remember what I said earlier about repetition solidifying, it does the same thing negatively for you. If you've recorded something, maybe you don't like it, or maybe it's just an idea that you're not too fond of, the more you listen to it, the more your brain is going to accept it as the thing that it is. The harder it's going to be to change it, the longer you wait. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to just put something down and don't think about it, don't listen to it. Actually, try to make your brain forget it. Another tip is to expand your vocabulary. This can literally just be by like reading books, like I was talking about earlier, or listening to your favorite artist. And you know, what I mean by that is just like pick up new words, new phrases that you don't usually use, because that'll get something also feeling fresh and new for your ears, which will make you probably like it more because it's fresh and new. And my final small tip, or my final tip period, that I think is just a fun one to throw on top of writing lyrics, is to not be afraid to chain words together or chain phrases together. I will show you an example of this in just a moment, but sometimes I'll have like a phrase that maybe is too close to another phrase and I don't know how to bridge them to make it flow properly. And sometimes the easiest fix for that is to make the last word of the first phrase. Sometimes you can make that the first word of the second phrase. And so it's a word that will fit in before the second phrase and still make a cohesive statement. I mean, a word that fits in after the first phrase to make that also a cohesive statement. So when you get them back to back, then it starts feeling like it's flowing better, because this one word can kind of act as the tie between phrase A and phrase B. But yeah, that was generally all of the tips I had for writing lyrics. It's just the way that I do it. I feel like, again, everybody's going to do this differently. Sometimes you can be inspired by seeing a word on the wall and you can be like, that's sick, I'm going to write a song about that, you know? But yeah, one of the last tips I did want to mention was that sometimes I don't know what the song is that I'm writing about until after I've written it. Again, because of that whole thing with mumbles earlier, if I'm sitting there mumbling out a bunch of words that sound cool and, you know, phrases that string together or whatever, sometimes I will get a fully finished product. I will have no clue what it is that I'm talking about. And it's really funny because this is where I was talking to one of my friends about this earlier. I was like, it's really interesting how your body can tell you things about your own brain, before you even interpret it yourself. And maybe that's why music is so cool, because you can sit there, write an entire song, have no idea what it's about. I've done this, by the way. Come back to it 3 months later on a fresh set of ears, and all of a sudden I've painted an entire picture for myself that I didn't even see while I was writing it. I think that's kind of all of my tips. I'm gonna go ahead and show you one of the songs I was actually just working on, like literally, I believe, today at some point. I was just writing some lyrics this morning, another reason why I was thinking about coming on and doing this, but you can kind of see how all of these tie into the picture of what it is that I'm writing, because even though it's not making sense in pieces, when it comes together, it fills out this bigger picture. So, all right, so this is kind of an idea I was working with this morning. It's very rough, but here is the idea. Feel the water rushing up and past your knees. Breathe the air you thought would kill you just to see this place where your bones kept your mind at bay. Tethered to a space where your heart would shine. I feel like this one is cool. You can kind of check it out here with the lyrics. This whole idea of stuff that I was talking about earlier kind of comes in here. So I'm using like words that, the words that inspired this bit, you can kind of pick out. Like I've got rushing, there's flowing, which was like one that I had in there before that I switched out because I didn't really like the way that it felt. Up and past your knees, we're staying very visual here. And then I follow that up with another visual statement, breathe the air. So you're breathing something in, you can see that you thought would kill you just to see. That was interesting to me because it's the contrast of the aggressiveness in the word kill with something so soft as breathing air. It's like this interesting dynamic and contrast that I thought was pretty cool when I was writing it, so I threw it in there. And then we get to see this place where your bones, that was one of the words that inspired this phrase, your bones kept your mind at bay. What does that mean? Good question, but it sounds cool, and I will probably figure out the meaning after it's written. Then the next phrase is tethered to a space where your heart would, feels like it's cutting off, right? Your heart would what, but that's where the whole chaining lines together bit comes in, because you're saying your heart would shy away from expectation, which is the first bit of the chorus. And I think it's kind of cool how you can use one small phrase at the end of a verse to kind of tie into the chorus, paint a bigger picture. Chorus is the same thing. Shy away from expectation, smothered underneath a good intention. That kind of paints a picture. It's not as visual as I'd like it to be, but the cool way of phrasing the idea of not wanting to do something. That's pretty much it. Back to the much better video of me. Cool. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you. If you haven't yet heard my band, go ahead and stream the music, whatever, down there. I also do teach lessons. If you want to learn more about any of this stuff, you can book at the link down below. You can also book by sending me an email or hitting me up on Instagram, which is on the screen somewhere. Thanks for checking this out. I hope this helped in any way, shape, or form. And if you also have questions, you can leave them down below in the comments. But yeah, we've got Patreon link down below, and we're going on tour in July, so come out to a show, come say hi if you like that twinkly guitar stuff. Okay, bye.